Welcome, everybody, to Dad's Watching Sports. It is episode 63, Sunday, May the 2nd. 63, that is right, Kyle. May the 2nd. He is Kyle Castles. I am Michael Draper, and collectively, we are the Dad's Watching Sports. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's show, whether you're streaming us live on the Off the Ball Network or maybe even our Facebook page. We hope you are. And if you're checking us out via podcast, you know the drill. Subscribe, rate, review, all the fun stuff. Thanks for checking us out. It's been a busy weekend, and we'll get into that. But Kyle, man, in Middle Tennessee, it's like this weekend was like that first springtime, warm weather, beautiful outside all 3 days. Just a great time to be kind of with family, hanging out, being outside. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a great weekend, and we did that. We had baseball Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon, and I've been out all weekend. And I heard you had some fun going down at your house this weekend.
We did, and I'll get into that here in just a little bit. But yeah, we had a busy weekend as well. But one thing I wanted to kind of hit right off the top of the bat here, Kyle, is something I did not run this by you beforehand, but this happened this evening, and so I just wanted to put this out there. You know, when springtime, especially in the South, kind of Southeast, is kind of widely known for a couple different things. One of those being like shrimp, crawfish boil season. It's everywhere. People are doing crawfish boils, shrimp boils. We like some good food, some good Cajun food. You can tell looking at Kyle and I both, we enjoy to eat. And so tonight, Kyle, our family went with some friends of ours to just a little local spot. I can't remember the name, over off of Carruthers, over on like the Cool Springs area.
Yeah. I know the one you're talking about right there in front of what used to be Knoxville.
Yeah. Yep.
What's First Watch now? Yeah.
But anyway, so we went to a place and, thinking, all right, we're going to go get shrimp boil, crawfish boil, whatever. Are you a crawfish guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You are too, right?
I am. Yeah, I am. I definitely am. So, crawfish is one of those things that it's kind of like crab, and you got to do a little work to get your food. It's not easy to get to. Mm-hmm. You gotta crack it open. You gotta dig through there. And crawfish, when you're working with crab, you at least get a pretty good. If it's a good sized crab, you're getting a pretty good chunk of crab once you finish. Crawfish, you get just a little tail. Well, before I get into the rest of this, are you a head sucker, Kyle?
I eat the tail and I suck the head. You daggum right.
That's not the first time you've sucked. That won't be the last.
Hey, make sure we got some Facebook activity.
We do. Yes, we do. So Eric Jackson and Matthew Powell saying Cajun Steamer, and that is the correct name of the restaurant. So thanks to Eric and Matthew for that. So, I'll suck the head every once in a while, but it's just not really hugely my thing. But again, I get back to this. It's a lot of work for that. And so, you and I, we're both big guys. Are you willing to put in the work, 2 or 3 minutes at a time for every little piece, only to get a little bit of crawfish?
If it's taking you that long to get to the tail of the crawfish, you're not doing something right there, brother.
Well, no, I'm doing it right now. Trust me, I've eaten my fair share. You twist it off, you kind of pull it out, you take a look on the inside, but then depending on how big they are, you kind of got to get in there and you got to break it apart. And if they're not cooked all that great, sometimes they kind of crack a little bit. And
if they're not cooked right, if they're overcooked, yeah, you run into some issues.
Yeah. So, we eat. It was great. Don't get me wrong. It was great. And man, I had some jambalaya that was just spot on. But when we're leaving, I was like, man, we've done a little bit of both. We've done the crawfish, in the shell. We've done already shelled. And I think I might be that guy that likes it out of the shell already. Just because it's so much when you can just throw it in with everything else, you still get the flavor, you still get everything in it. And you don't have to do the work.
Yeah, I got nothing for you on this one, brother. This one's all look. You can't be you got to earn the goodness, right? You can't buy imitation crab.
Well, no, you can't buy imitation. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I am saying when you're seated with your family and you got a 4-year-old and 2-year-old and you're trying to figure all them out and figure out what they're doing, I don't have time to be cracking through and figuring it all out, and I just don't have time for it.
Look, that's on you. Again, I have perfected the art of cracking them suckers off.
So Joshua Van Dyke says nothing like sucking the head, though. Again, we'll just kind of leave that comment there. And that's just lazy. Josh, it is lazy. I get it. It's lazy. But you know what? When I'm sitting down to eat, I'm not trying to work. I'm just trying to eat. I'm not trying to work. And so I think I'm the guy that just wants to buy them already shelled and throw them in the boil with everything else and get it going.
Speaking of that, so my parents were up here this past weekend. Shout out to Kitty and Donna. Lauren made I helped. It's not like she did it all, but I bought the shrimp and I helped cut up the corn. I cut the corn.
Okay.
And we do this like shrimp bowl on a cookie sheet in the oven instead of actually doing the whole bowl. And with enough Old Bay seasoning, it's pretty good.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we usually will do shrimp, potatoes, corn, maybe some sausage, throw it in a bag, get some of that seasoning, some butter. Oh man, that's some good stuff.
We do it with some andouille, and then we also do some green beans, like those green the actual string beans, right?
Yeah,
we'll throw those in too, and boil it all up a little bit before we put it in the oven and bake it.
Very nice, very nice. Just two good old country boys talking shrimp and crawfish boil. I love it.
This is why you tune in.
That's right. Yeah. If there's anything, we're going to provide you with some good options for some food. Okay, Kyle. So one other thing that I've got to get to right off the bat here is, man, we're getting older. You're 35. I'm 36. The old body just ain't kind of what it used to be. Let's just kind of leave it that. And this is where I'm getting here at, or what I'm getting at here. Out pick up basketball that we got 2 outdoor courts. We'll go from 6:30 to 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings. I'm like, that could be kind of cool as men's pickup. So, I wasn't going to be out there running against some high schoolers. So it's like, you know what? I think I'm going to look into that. Well, we've had rain, we've had cold, we've been out of town a couple weekends. So this Saturday was the day. I was like, it's going to be a perfect day. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sunny. I don't have anything going on that morning. I'm going to go play some basketball. And so I did. And it was great. We had a couple of guys out there. We ran some full court. We did play for about an hour and a half. But man, dude, my legs, I'm telling you, my legs are gelatin today. Like yesterday I could notice, I was like, man, my knees are getting a little stiff. Mm-hmm. And then this morning I woke up and I was like, ooh. That's not what we did. And I run pretty regularly. I'll probably run 12 miles a week. I feel like we exercise every once in a while, but that stop and go up and down the court, jumping, like I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Was not ready for it. And I think back specifically in college, shout out to our buddy Thomas Taylor and I, when we were too broke to afford to eat in college, we would, instead, when we got hungry, we would just go to the Sanderson Center at Mississippi State University and play basketball for a couple of hours. Like, well, we can't eat. Let's go do something, and then we'll go buy our one meal of the day, and be fine, and do that like every day. And I'm serious. Like as we're doing this show, I'm looking down at my right knee, and I have swelling on my knee. I have fluid on my knee from playing an hour and a half of pickup basketball with, I think I was the youngest guy out there.
Wow.
So
yeah,
man, it sucks getting old.
Yeah. And so what former life now, a few years ago, I was coaching, and I could tell. So I started coaching straight out of college, and I'm 24, and I can get out there and I can move and I can show them exactly how I want them to do whatever it is I'm asking them to do. And I caught myself as I was finishing up coaching. I couldn't get myself into the same positions that I could a decade prior.
Or if you got into them, you couldn't get out of them.
Couldn't get out of them.
Right.
I could fight my way down into a 3-point stance, but man, I couldn't get out of that stance anymore. And it was a whole lot harder to get into it than it was at 21, 22. Heck, coaching baseball for one of my so they both had a game Saturday morning, both had a game this afternoon. And yesterday, Wrigley Wrigley played the second game both times. Wrigley, his head coach couldn't show up yesterday for whatever reason. They had something else going on. So I get to the game after coaching Jack's team, and he's 4 and under, so it's 3 and 4 year olds playing t-ball. Yeah. Right. So trying to get on their level, I stayed like squatted for an hour. Because if I stand up, they don't even see me. I don't know.
Right.
So I'm squatted for an hour, and then I get to Wrigley's game. They got 2 coaches with 11 5 and 6 year olds. I'm like, they're not going to make this work. So I go out there and help them. Well, the problem is I'm still 6'3", 6'4", and these kids are not. So I'm then squatted for another hour. So 2 hours sitting in a catcher squat talking to kids.
Dude, there's no way. I would have just sat down. I would have just sat down.
Dude, my knees, today when I woke up, I was like, the right one didn't want to work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I had to go back out there and coach Jack's team again. And today I was like trying to bend over, like stretching my hamstrings instead of squatting down. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I got some swelling on my knees too.
Yeah. It's bad, man. A couple of comments here. So Joshua Van Dyke says, man, I still work out fairly regularly. Just moved last weekend, was sore for 3 days. Yeah, moving will absolutely destroy you. And Eric Jackson, same here. I can run and be fine. Everything else I'm done for days. It's unbelievable, man. And it's such a shot to your, I don't know if you call it your ego or just your manhood or whatever, but like, again, being out there on the basketball court for an hour and a half, and I mean, we were running full court, but dude,
yeah,
I mean, my knee is literally swollen the next day.
Yeah.
And we were playing with the kids today and getting up and getting down. I was like, my gosh, man, like what has happened?
So
this is not good.
I remember, being, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years old and get out in the yard and throwing a ball with my dad. And I'm sitting there like coming out just hard as I can throw it. And he's easing into this thing, man. Right. And I'm like, what do you just throw it, man? And that now I'm like,
Yep.
I got you.
You got to get warmed up and then go take some Tylenol afterwards, and hopes or maybe an anti-inflammatory.
Exactly.
So what's your go-to recovery for being out of shape and old and hurting a day after baseball or basketball or whatever?
Tylenol, ibuprofen. I got 500 milligram of pills of both, and I'll take 2 at a time of whatever I find first.
Yeah. It's like It depends. To me, it depends on what I'm doing. Like, that I've competed in a couple of triathlons, and so like when I do that, like I go like straight ice bath afterwards because your body, your muscles are just they're shocked by all that. I didn't think I would have had to do that after an hour and a half of playing pickup basketball. But here I am literally thinking, okay, I may go put my legs in the ice bath before I go to bed so I don't wake up with a cramp again tonight like I did last night, which is unbelievably humiliating, disappointing, and it makes me want to just kind of crawl up in a ball. Well, you know what?
BC powder works fast. I've used that some.
Yeah.
I hadn't done an ice bath since college, man, but I used to love those things. Coming in after a hot practice and you can barely walk.
Oh yeah, you get down in there for 3 to 5 to 7 minutes, boy, and that'll do you some wonders.
3 to 5 to 7, man. I'm in there for like 15.
Well, some of us like to actually throw some ice in the water as well, Kyle. So
whoa! I only sit in ice.
Yeah. You just go dry ice. I put dry ice in my ice baths. That's what I do. Oh man, well, this has been very discouraging, and I'm now completely depressed because we're getting old and we're hurting. And we still have young kids. That's the thing is I'm like, man, we got to run around with these kids for like the next 15 years.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know if my body can handle it. What are we going to do? All right, man. Well, let's go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft and just kind of where are you at as a sports fan right now? Because I got to share with you, I'm not in a very good place. But we'll talk about that when we come back on Dad's Watching Sports. We'll be right back. Big news in the Dad's Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. We're on the Off the Ball Network. He's Kyle Castles. I am Michael Draper, and we are presented by Manscaped. And Kyle, it's our favorite time of the show. NFL drafts just happened. Are you doing this to cover up the laughter? Yeah, okay, good. The NFL draft just happened last week, Kyle. And it's possible you might have number one pick Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants. If that's why our partners at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have partnered with us to make sure you don't gamble on having down there the same way you might gamble on a football team or the first-round pick, which maybe a team or two did this past week. For all of my draft geeks out there, there's an exclusive 20% off promo code, Off the Ball at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping by using the code Off the Ball at manscaped.com. Whether you have Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants or if you're just a big Trevor Lawrence fan or you're a Jaguars fan and you're excited. Kyle, we had the NFL draft just this past week. You and I spoke before the show. You said you watched a good part of the first day, maybe a little bit of the second, and then not so much the rest of the way. What's your any thoughts on anything to do with the draft, how the Saints did, surprises, disappointments, et cetera, et cetera?
So the first two picks, I was texting with my dad and my sister. My dad was with me, but my sister wanted a group text with both of them. Actually, that was Thursday night. Never mind. So we were all separated. But I was texting with my dad and my sister Thursday night, and I told him, I said, the draft doesn't start till pick 3. We know who number 1's going to be, and we know who number 2 is going to be. We knew it was going to be Trevor Lawrence. We knew Zach Wilson 1, 2. The question was, which way do the Niners go? For weeks after they made that trade up to number 3, the thought was it's Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones. And then in the last, day, 2 days before the draft, you start hearing Trey Lance's name. And my thought was like, do you really want to go Trey Lance at 3 when you're seeing, when you're looking at a kid that started 17 games at the FCS level, not even at, maybe if you started 17 games for Alabama, we could make this make sense. But I don't know. To me, it didn't make a ton of sense. But whatever, they made their mind up and they went with what they wanted to go with. And I do think his skill set fits Shanahan's system better. So maybe that's their thought process. He can sit behind Jimmy G for a year or two, so long as Jimmy G stays healthy. We'll see about that. Maybe that makes sense. So that was the first big pick. I thought the Bengals had a franchise-defining pick there at, what was that, 5, I believe?
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, when they went Jamar Chase. And I get it, right? I mean, they got their franchise guy in Joe Burrow. They want to get him a weapon. Why not get him the weapon that he was so dangerous with in college? Like, all of the reasons make sense. But the last thing we saw Joe Burrow do in 2020 was get carted off the field because he was running for his life. And you got, one of the best offensive tackle prospects we've seen in a few years, and Penei Sewell sitting right there. I'm sure that what's his name? I just went blank. Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, yeah.
Is happy to have him up there in Detroit now. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, and then the cool thing, 5 and 6, you got Jamar Chase out of LSU that went to the Bengals to play with his college quarterback in Joe Burrow. Jalen Waddle out of Alabama going in the next pick to Miami to play with Tua again.
Yep. And didn't Devontae Smith go to Philadelphia to play with
Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. Little SEC reunion tour going on in the NFL.
I think it makes
it just means more.
Yes,
as the slogan says.
As a Saints fan, I wasn't thrilled with the pick, and I still can't remember the guy's name. It was a defensive end out of Houston, and I'm sure he's going to be fantastic. I'm sure this is nothing to worry about. Is it Preston Turner? Patrick Turner. Preston. I don't know. Turner. Defensive end out of Houston. He's
you could have said any name possible, and I'd be like, sure, yeah.
Right. And the reason for that is most people had him sitting at a 3 or a 4 round, third or fourth round pick, not a first round pick. And the Saints were like, hey, you know what? 6'6", 280 playing DN, that's our guy.
There you go.
From what I can tell, he looks like a freak athlete, and hey, that's great, grand, and wonderful. I hope it's better than the other defensive end we took out of UT San Antonio. Can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. You can tell I didn't put my notes together tonight.
Well, if it makes any consolation, it wasn't even on the rundown, so you didn't know to put it on here. That's called producing on the fly. Yep. So Joshua Van Dyke says Lance at the 3 still makes me cringe for the 49ers. And talking about Burrow needed an O-line. It'll be interesting. We'll have to see if we can get some comments from our good friend Mr. Rubio there in San Francisco. See what their thoughts are on how they did with the draft, getting Mr. Lance there.
Yeah, look, I think you got a shot, right? There's 8 quarterbacks that went in this draft. I think you got a shot at 3, maybe 4 of them that actually pan out to be a solid starter in the NFL, if not better. And I think you can kind of, maybe not in ink, but you can go ahead and write down Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. I think there's enough talent there. The question is going to come down, is it Mac Jones? Is it Justin Fields? Is it Trey Lance? It's probably one of those 3 that's going to actually do something. As bad as I hate to say it, I feel like Mac Jones is in the best spot going up there. He's a Brady-esque type quarterback. He's not extremely mobile. He's more mobile than Brady.
Yeah.
Right. The kid came in and ran like a 4.7 or 4.8 40. I think Brady was a 5.1 or 5.2 40. So I think he's more mobile than Brady. He kind of he plays like Brady. It's cerebral. It's quick game. It's I'm going to beat you with my head and then be extremely accurate with the ball. Brady can stretch the field. He probably has a stronger arm than Mac Jones. So the question is, can Mac stretch that field enough? That I don't know. But I think Mac Jones is in the perfect spot. If anybody can put an offense around a guy that like Mac Jones, it's going to be Bill Belichick.
Well, you'd have to imagine one, I don't know if Belichick knew that Mac Jones was going to fall that far, but once it started looking like that might happen, him and Saban are buddies, and he probably called him up and said, hey, what do you think here? And
here's the thing. I think Bill maybe would have moved up had Trey had Mac Jones gone 3. That may have changed the Patriots' whole draft thought. But the minute Mac Jones doesn't go 3 and it's Trey Lance, you basically looked up and said there's no chance that Mac Jones goes anywhere other than New England. Then the Bears moved up, and I went, ooh, did they just screw this up? And then they picked Justin Fields at 11. And at that point, you're looking at Mac Jones for the Patriots, and I think it worked out kind of best case for everyone except for Justin Fields. I don't know that if I'm the Niners and I'm looking for a guy that can move around a little bit and throw the ball on the run and all that, I think Justin Fields may be the one, but I think mechanics really scare teams and maybe more than it should. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, nobody pays me to scout players, right? But I know Justin Fields has a long windup. I mean, I'm trying to think if I want to get into this. So the idea the ball sits about chest level, and when a quarterback's ready to throw it, he should just kind of open the shoulder and the elbow to the ear and let it go. And Justin Fields will drop the ball below his elbow, which is always a no-no because then you got a big wind-up. If you're watching this, you see my arm and you know what I'm talking about. But if that ball drops below the elbow, you got a big wind-up and it takes longer to get that ball out. So with that, maybe that's the reason Justin Fields falls. I still think I pick him over Trey Lance, though.
Well, Josh, I think would have not agreed with you there. He said I wouldn't have wasted a pick on Fields. He hasn't shown me that he can play under pressure or throw in NFL windows.
But Trey Lance has.
Touche. Do we need to have the cousins quarrel here on Dad's Watching Sports?
Bring him on. I will explain to him how he's wrong, and that'll just be it.
Well, Kyle, it sounds like that. You know, having gone through watching the NFL draft, you got all this knowledge on everything you shared with us. That your kind of commitment to, or your kind of love of sports is still kind of at a fairly high clip. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I really enjoy sports. There are some I enjoy more than others. I know you're a big basketball guy. I can watch basketball. It's not something I love. So that time from football to baseball is kind of where I kind of lag a little bit. But with baseball coming back on, I've watched baseball. I enjoy watching baseball. I know you're not a baseball guy. And I know basketball is winding down. I mean, and you're a college basketball guy. Pro basketball doesn't do it for you. Hockey doesn't do it really for you.
Yeah. So this is the thing, man. And this is this is why we have a show about sports, right? So it's definitely been like over the past year. I've just kind of seen more and more like just the not even like being all in on a certain sports league or something, but more of just like carrying it. Like there's some things I'm just like, man, I don't even care. So this is a classic example. Draft is on Thursday night. And we'll talk a little bit about this later in the show, but we were getting ready for a community-wide yard sale in our neighborhood, and my wife wanted to be a part of it. And we had a lot of crap, and I mean a lot of crap to get rid of and to sell. And so Thursday, we took the kids to swim lessons. We ate dinner. We came home. We prepped for the garage sale. I didn't know anything about the draft until about 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then didn't watch a single second of it the rest of the way. I would kind of look on Twitter and see like, where did the Kentucky guys go? Because that's pertinent to me. But I didn't really care who the Titans picked. I didn't really care who was a surprise. Like, I don't know, man. And so Suzanne and I were talking about it last night. It's just like, I don't know if it's just something that's really been the past year with COVID and just being overwhelmed with stuff. I don't know if it's just having much more on your plate and just not caring as much. As a Kentucky fan, I still think the 2015 loss to Wisconsin just broke me as a sports fan. I mean, I'm just being honest. We were undefeated, 38-0, going for the national championship undefeated. They lost, and I feel like I have just not been a sports fan since then.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, man. It's just, it's weird. There are certain things that I'm just like, I
Well,
don't care.
I think you said it right when you said we have a lot more on our plate, and so sports has been deprioritized to a large degree. And that's true for both of us. I can tell you that I'm getting back into, especially baseball, because my boys love baseball.
Sure.
They want to play with look at their baseball cards. They want to go play baseball like that. That works, right? That gets you back into it, and it's less about. What I will say is, I'm not near as it's not life or death anymore. If Mississippi State comes out and they lay an egg and lose the Egg Bowl, pun intended, not intended, I don't know either way. Okay. Do I like it when we win the Egg Bowl because my sister's an Ole Miss fan and that Joshua Van Dyke that keeps popping back up is an Ole Miss fan and I can kind of run my mouth? Sure. If we lose, do I really care? Not really. Because at the end of the day, like, I enjoy watching the games. I don't really watch a lot of games kick off to end anymore.
Yeah.
With baseball, I'm not sitting there watching pitch one to the last out in the ninth. I used to try and sit down and watch. I'd probably watch a Preds game, once or twice a week. I don't know that I've sat down and watched a Preds game yet this year. I mean, I get it. But, I mean, it's still sports. Football's still, my big passion. I still love the game. I do love my Saints. Again, I'm not a, live or die by the Saints. I do get upset when the Vikings come in and just demolish a receiver and before the ball gets there and there is no PI called. Like, that upsets me as a Saints fan. Absolutely. But for the most part, like, I look at it and go, look, we're not the best team. I'm not looking for a Super Bowl. Like, let's just see them win some games, lose some games, whatever.
Yeah.
For me, it's fun to watch the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and kind of thinking about those games, you mentioned the Egg Bowl, and just thinking about, like, over the past couple of years, like the games that I've without a doubt gotten up for anytime Kentucky plays Tennessee, and I don't care if it's football, basketball, lacrosse, I don't care what it is. I want us to beat the dirty, dirty Vols. And we usually do. Louisville, of course. But yeah, anything else, man, I'm just like, and Eric Jackson chimes in and says, I found out the more kids you have, the harder it gets to find time to watch sports. And that is without a doubt true. And that's probably not a bad thing. We don't need to be as obsessed with it. Eric, I am going to put this other comment up that you put on Go Duke. And man, we're going to hide that right now just because nobody wants any of that business. Josh says summertime, time to enjoy the outdoors and wait for football. I agree there. Josh as well. And Josh also says, I think if State or Ole Miss has a legit chance to win a championship, it would be different, but it's hard to get into it when you lay down or you get let down year over year. That's also true. And I think that's what you alluded to, Kyle. I was like, where is this starting to rank and what's important of life? And when your team doesn't have necessarily that chance to win the title, you're just like, yeah, I mean, it's fun. I'll watch, I'll pay attention. But at the end of the day, let's go do something outside with kids.
When you're a Mississippi State fan and Nick Saban and Bama are in the SEC West with you, you're not winning the SEC West. It's okay.
When you're any SEC fan and Nick Saban's in the SEC with you, or you're any college fan and Nick Saban's still at Alabama in college, you're just like, who cares? It doesn't really matter. Okay. So Eric lives in my neighborhood, and he said, did you ever get the letter from the HOA for that ugly blue flag you had up during basketball season? Well played, Eric. And I did. It was actually a letter saying congratulations because we needed some blue in this neighborhood as opposed to any of that dirty, dirty orange that flies around from time to time. But I haven't seen nearly as much orange here lately. I wonder why.
The balls are quiet.
They're very quiet. All right, Kyle. Well, let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll kind of toss around some other topics and we'll finish up the show, but we'll be right back on Dad's Watching Sports. Coming up next week on Dad's Watching Sports, it's Mother's Day and we're talking all things moms in sports. This past week's NFL Draft showed just how important moms are in the lives of athletes, and we'll discuss. Plus, who knows, maybe the wives will take a much anticipated return to the show. That and more next week on Dad's Watching Sports. We'll see you then. Welcome back to the show. It's Dad's Watching Sports. We are 1 week away from Mother's Day, so we're going to talk some all things moms and sports. Kyle, big Mother's Day. We won't give a spoiler alert, but are you and the kids? Have you fully finished getting preparations for Mother's Day in terms of any gifts for Mrs. Castle?
One of them is completed, and I'll word it that way.
There we go. In that regard, we're in the exact same boat.
We got to find a time when Mama will not be at the house, but the kids will, which is harder. I may have to send her away.
Yep. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to reach out to the school this week and say, hey, so you guys planning any Mother's Day crafts or something that our kids could do? See what they got going on there. And I don't know why I said that, because my wife listens to the show every week, and now she knows my master plan, and it's been foiled.
Suzanne, he's going to come up with something, and he's going to orchestrate it.
That's right. It's all on me, honey. All on me. If you're checking out the show via the podcast, wherever you download and listen to podcasts, thank you so much for doing that. Like I said at the beginning of the show, hit us up with a subscription, rating, and review. So what you do is you hit the subscribe button. That means it downloads every single week into your archives. And we would love to get a 5-star rating from you as well. And you can shoot us a little review and say, Michael knows exactly what he's talking about. Kyle has no idea. Or, you can say whatever you want. It doesn't really matter to me. We would just love to have a review. And then obviously you can always check us out on social media channels there, Kyle, Facebook, Twitter, the Gram, et cetera, et cetera. We're not on the TikTok anymore, Kyle, but I know you are. At least you were when we talked a few weeks ago. How's the TikTok life treating you over there?
It's kind of like sports. I don't make time
as you probably shouldn't. Just being honest there. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to get into before we get out. First off, and this wasn't on the rundown, this is just more of an FYI for you, Kyle. I like to every once in a while on the show just bring little nuggets of information for you that can, maybe be a betterment of your life or maybe just something that you might enjoy. And this is one of those. So there is an article on Politico. It was actually their Friday cover story. So I don't know if you knew this, Kyle, but this weekend was the 10-year anniversary of the United States taking out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. For those of you that remember that, it was a Sunday night back in May, I guess it would have been 2011, where President Obama at the time got on TV and said, hey, we took him out. The job is done. He's now in some sea swimming with the fishes. And so this story, this is incredible. So I encourage everybody to check this out. It's the title of the story is, the article is, I'd never been involved in anything as secret as this. And this takes basically like the top 6 or 8 people within the White House and the CIA. And it talks about like literally about an 8 to 10 month planning plot, whatever you want to call it, for that mission. And it's a very long read. It took me about 45 minutes to read the entire thing, but man, it is so interesting. It goes into a lot of details that people don't probably know or didn't know. Probably one of the funniest things. There's 2 things that I'll share with you that might pique your interest here. One thing pretty funny. The other one's just like, wow, I can't believe that's actually real. So they're kind of getting ready for the night of, and they're thinking, okay, we're going to be in the Situation Room maybe upwards of about 14 or 15 hours, because it takes a little time for, them to get from Afghanistan to Pakistan and to run this whole thing. And so it didn't say who said this, but it said one person chimed in and said, hey, we're going to be here. It's going to be like a college all-nighter. We need to order some food. And then somebody else, I guess, chimed in and said, yeah, let's order some pizzas. Well, then at that point in time, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said, oh, no, we don't need that. We need veggie trays. So somebody go to Costco and get us some veggie trays. So Hillary Clinton gets veggie trays. Yeah, I'd be shaking my head at that too. And then apparently like an hour later, they were like, no, screw this. We're getting pizza. So they said it was like a college fraternity room at the end of that night. There were pizza boxes stacked up all over the Situation Room, which is pretty cool. And then the second thing, and I found this extremely interesting, and I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was one of these main people that, was in this thing from the very beginning. And he goes home one night, and this is after about 8 months of planning this and having to go in long hours and all this stuff. And his wife comes into him and says, something's wrong. Like, something's off with you. Is something wrong with us? Like, what's going on here? You've been really distant lately. You've been really busy at work.
Yeah.
And this is a quote from the article. He said, so I took her into the first floor of our loft apartment. We went into the bathroom. I turned on the faucet. I turned on the shower, and I whispered in her ear, "We're going to get bin Laden." And you hear that and you think that's something you see in a movie where people go in like the room, they turn on something. So if people are, spying on their apartment, they can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And to hear a high level U.S. official saying that was like, wow, that's cool, creepy, interesting, all at the same time.
Yeah. It reminds. Have you ever seen Bad Boys 2, Will Smith?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Great
so
movie.
it reminds me of the scene where Gabrielle Union meets the crime boss or whatever. I think he's Cuban or something, and she's trying to talk to him right there, like on the beach and in chairs, and he says, "No, let's talk in the water." And so he knows, like, there are people that are listening, and so that's the first thing that came to mind was that scene in that movie.
Yep.
Which is a great movie. This is why Hillary Clinton can't win a presidential election.
Right. Exactly.
Can we just say that? Like, is that okay?
Oh, of course.
Like,
no, that's.
I want a veggie tree. Not on the dip, though. I don't want the dip. Let's just eat the raw veggies. Okay?
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, there is nothing more in this world that depicts her character. Or, well, I'm not going to say her character. I'm sure she's a perfectly fine person. But what she is personified as saying, no, let's get a veggie tray as opposed to pizzas.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing. Like, I'm sure nobody in America, when they read that, or in the world when they read that, we're like, oh, that really surprises me that Hillary would not want pizza.
Yes, that's not that. No, I need some pizza. Make sure I need all the pepperoni and the sausage and the Canadian bacon. Make sure there's a little extra cheese on it.
Joe Biden was all about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, come on, let's get the meat lovers pizza in here. Come on, we can't have these veggies." But it is. I would very much encourage everybody listening, take the time, go to Politico, and again, you got to carve out about 45 minutes at least it's a very long article.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly interesting. And this kind of shines a little bit of the light into just some of the amazing stuff that not only went on with that, but that goes on in any of those types of missions. All right, Kyle, a couple last things before we finish up here. It's time for our weekly All-Pro Dad topic. And this is one that I came across this past week. And it's very applicable. You were talking about baseball before the show, and you even mentioned a little bit here on the show. And so I feel like it's very applicable. So the 5 worst things that you can do at your kids' competition. Now, this obviously could be a soccer game, a baseball game. This could be a dance recital. This could be whatever kind of competition that you're in. But the 5 worst things you could do. Number 1, forget your role. I think that's a great idea, considering most of the time, I know you're help coaching some of your kids' baseball teams, but more often than not throughout our lives, we will probably not be the coach. We will be sitting on the sidelines right there. So number 1, forget your role. Number 2, focus on your kids' personal goals. So putting their goals ahead of maybe the team and everyone else and having kind of a me attitude. Number 3, show negative emotion. They're saying like it can only add pressure to the kid. It can take away focus from what's going on in the game. Number 4, compare your kid to someone else. That speaks for itself. And then coach your kid in the car, whether it be on the way to it or on the way home. I would imagine this is probably more thinking like after a game, if a kid plays poorly on the way home and kind of getting into it. So thoughts on the 5 worst things you can do while at a kid's competition.
So forgetting your role, that is a big one. I feel pretty comfortable sharing this story. So yesterday's game for my 6-year-old, he's a very passive kid. And so if somebody jumps in front of him in line or something, he's just going to let it go. And there is another kid on the team who, for whatever reason, never shows up on time, ever. Except for today, because it was picture day, and they definitely are not going to miss picture day.
Of course not.
Look, you have worked at the Y. You know the type of parent I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Right? So this kid's mother shows up in the bottom half of the first inning. We were the visitor. We had already hit. We were in the field. The kid shows up. I don't even think comes out to the field when he gets there. He just waits till we come back in, and then we put him at the end of the lineup, let him hit. The next inning rolls around. It's supposed to be Wrigley's turn. Like, he's supposed to lead off that inning, and you hear the mother yell at her son that it's his turn to bat, and he needs to get up there. Well, first off, you're the parent. Just sit over there and shut up. Just gonna say it. And secondly,
Coach Castle's everyone.
And secondly, it's not. It's actually my kid's turn to bat. And so, like, that kid jumped up, hit, and then they got in line based off of where that kid was in the lineup, which put my kid towards the end. And so, since I was the coach, because I was helping coach that day, I was the coach closest to the dugout. I just went over there and said, "Whoa, who was like? Where are we?" And I basically put them in numerical order and said, "We're going to bat this way," and that way, forget what the lineup says. Nobody's checking it anyways. So don't just shut up, parents. Watch your kid, enjoy it. If they suck, they suck. Enjoy it. If they're awesome, they're awesome. Enjoy it. Work with your kid when you get home, right? So, I mean, that goes down to that coach your kid in the car. No, shut up in the car. Just tell your kid they did great. Tell your kid you're excited to see them play on the way there. Tell them they did great on the way back. The next day, that's when you can get out in the yard and say, "Hey, look, you just want to get out there and swing a bat. You want to get out there and throw. You want to get out there and field ground balls. Whatever it is, that's the time. If you want to coach your kid, you can coach your kid when they're not just leaving a game or going to a game." And the negative emotion, I think, is a big deal. And I see this in 4-year-old T-ball. You know, the kid is 4 and he swings over the ball. And you can, there's that dad that's down towards the outfield, and keep your eye on the ball. That's all fine and good, but the tone's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Your words may be fine, but that tone, that kid's going to pick up on it, and that tends to shut the kid down. And they start swinging harder and missing more, and it snowballs. You know what I mean? And don't compare your kid to someone else. Your kid's going to start where your kid starts. They're going to start where they start. And people may disagree with me, but after coaching for a decade and playing for so long, like, some people are born, athleticism is genetic to a large degree.
Sure.
And just because you're athletic does not mean that your kid is going to be athletic. I was a college athlete. I don't think I have a college athlete in my house. I might with Jack, right? And Hannah's too young to know. Wrigley, maybe if he works really hard, but I don't think things come as natural to him. That's okay. I don't care. He's a really smart kid. Math and putting things together and knowing how things work and fit together, he's great at it. And like that, I might have a future architect on my hands. That's fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know the athletics is his, and that's okay. I don't need him to be a great athlete. I just need him to be Wrigley.
Yeah.
And enjoy whatever he does.
Yeah. This whole thing is just something that is, I would say, kind of near and dear to my heart. As you said, having worked for the Y for a long time, and when I got my start with the YMCA working in youth sports, and so and had been around sports a lot, playing and coaching as well before that, but having been a part of something like the Y, and I'll preface that by saying, like, the Y is a great organization. We run a lot of great youth programs, sports being one of those, but you do often see, unfortunately, some of the worst of parents in those settings. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have witnessed a parent just act like ridiculous to the point where it completely embarrasses the child. It takes away any fun that they've had. And it could be directed at the coach. It could be directed at the officials. It could be directed at their child. And there's nothing that comes out of that whatsoever. And I've had to have many a conversation. I've had to kick parents out of games. I've had to expel parents from coming to the gym or the field at all. And that, I think, ultimately, that just makes it so much tougher on that child to feel involved and to be a part of a team when something like that happens. And, I know as a parent for myself, I think that I'll have that always in the back of my mind that I'm not the temperament to really do that anyways, but I just don't think that I would ever catch myself doing that, having seen on the flip side. I mean, I had two moms almost get in a fight. I had two coaches almost get in a fight. And that was at a 3 and 4 year old basketball game. 3 and 4.
Like, do we really care who wins in 3 or 4 year old basketball?
No, we don't. And that's what I tried to tell them over and over. Like, not only does your team not go to like our end of the season tournament because they're so young, but even if they did and they won the tournament, this is still the 3 and 4 year old Smyrna YMCA basketball league. I don't think that there's any AAU coaches in the gym. I don't think there's any high school coaches in the gym, middle school coaches in the gym. And I guarantee you, I guess it would have been Bruce Pearl at the time as the head coach of the University of Tennessee. He's definitely not in the gym. Yeah. So let's chill out a little bit here.
Look around. There's no one in the gym. Like, nobody's there to watch 3 and 4 year old basketball.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's a huge pet peeve of mine. I think all these are really good. I could see where there would be situations where some people might do number 4 in terms of like comparing your kid to someone else. But I just think that at the end of the day, especially with the age that are,
and I know
right.
Neither one of your kids, well, I know Hayden's too young. Emma hasn't started playing sports, right?
No, she does gymnastics. That's
okay.
Right.
Maybe you see this in gymnastics, but I can tell you that's the hardest one, comparing your kids to someone else. Because there's a team in the 6 and under grassland baseball that's kind of the ringer team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all these kids. So 2020, the spring baseball was canceled. Apparently, fall ball was not, but spring baseball with COVID was canceled. Fall ball was not, and so we didn't sign Wrigley up to play fall ball last year. Well, the coach on this team coached a team in fall ball, and then all of the best players he knew were which ones to get, and he put them all on one team, right?
Of course, yeah.
Who cares? Like, I'm not trying to win a championship in some 600 baseball, right?
That does nobody any good. Again, having to have conversations with coaches, like, that doesn't benefit your team, and that sure as heck doesn't benefit the other teams that you're beating by, in baseball,
right.
10, 15 runs.
Right.
And what does your team learn out of that? Absolutely nothing.
So, but it's hard when these kids come in and they swing the bat like they have been swinging it for years, right? Where everyone on Wrigley's team, they're just happy to make contact, right?
Sure.
Little dribblers right back to the mound. That's about it. We'll always see hit. And these kids are just line drives, to the gaps. And it's like, it's hard to see those kids. They're the same age as your kid. They're just so more advanced because, maybe their dad got out and spent more time with them than I did. Maybe things just come more naturally to them. Maybe they have matured at a faster rate than my kid physically. Like, all of these things are things that happen.
Well, or like you just alluded to, maybe that's just a genetic thing. I mean,
Exactly.
that could just be, genetics.
I mean, it all is what it is, but it's hard because you want your kid to be the best. I mean,
oh, sure.
So when you see the best, and you see how far your kid might be from the best, it's hard to go like, But, I sit back and go like, look, he's having fun. He's part of a team. There's lessons being learned. He's 6.
Right.
And he's 6. And it's easy. The bad part is when you start to compare your kid to someone else, you start to compare yourself to their parents. And go,
for sure.
Am I not good enough? Am I doing something wrong? And at the end of the day, like I said, kids mature at different rates. And the more mature kid right now may not be the most mature when they hit 18 and they're graduating high school. Like
Yep.
they may max out at 12 where your kid keeps growing past 12.
Yep.
You know?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a great point, without a doubt. And so, yeah, I think it's, I don't want to say like human instinct, but I think it's human instinct that you're going to see in that scenario. You're going to see those kids and you'll be like, wow, that kid's better than mine. And you'll do that natural compare. I think what I would imagine that this article is getting more down to is like, don't ever let that like consume your thoughts or to let that influence the way you treat your child or coach your child or talk to that those types of things. Yeah. So Josh jumps back in and says competitive gymnastics cheer has more drama than anything you've ever experienced. As a father of 3 girls, I can guarantee it. I have noticed, our daughter's just 4 and the gymnastics is not, it's not like competitive at all, but I have noticed they do have a couple of competitive teams that also practice at the same time. And yeah, it seems pretty,
look, this is Josh's fault. If he was man enough to have a boy, he may not have to deal with this 3.
Oh man. I don't even know how to comment on that. I'm
waiting. I really, really hope he was here to.
I'm going to let that be maybe a Thanksgiving dinner topic of discussion, and not on this show. But well, Kyle, we're up against it, man. I know we had a few things we didn't get to, but we'll hit those maybe in the next week or so. But enjoyed the show as always. Thanks to all the commentary going back and forth between our people that jumped in. We really appreciate that. We'd love for you to do it each and every week. Oh, we have a new I'll see you on Thanksgiving. Yep, Josh is coming in. Better watch out for a flying turkey leg. He might spike one of the sides or something.
I can flip this and make everything okay. Josh, I'll bring you a 5th of whiskey. We good now?
There we go. I tell you what, if you maybe you should drop the specific name and maybe we can get an endorsement by that type of whiskey, and we'll see what we can do there. So
let me know which one you want, Jameson.
There we go, Jameson. All right, we'll see if we can figure that out. So, all right, this has been Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week. It is Mother's Day. We're very excited to be celebrating the moms next week. Y'all take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.